Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned to Three Stones TV. You're watching the MedFiles program. I am your host, as usual, Marianne Waisha. As you know, this is the one medical program that gets answers from questions that we've collected from you, from Nairobi and other parts of the city. We have in studio Dr. Frederick Kimemia, who will be answering the questions that we've collected from you for this edition of the MedFiles program. We are still absolutely honored to have you, Daktari. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate your efforts to educate and teach us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
So
today we have one very interesting question on mood swings.
Yeah.
We have something on malaria.
Yes.
So let's just take the questions,
okay,
and then you can answer them as they came to us.
Okay.
All right. This is an interesting one, Daktari.
Yes.
A very frustrated young man talking about mood swings in women, especially, okay, he quotes mood swings in pregnancy.
Yes.
But I think the one situation that he has to deal with quite often is mood swings in women during their menses.
Yes.
And he says, oh, sometimes if she just doesn't want to talk to you and there's no reason why.
Yeah.
She's just upset.
Yes.
So perhaps we can start with, I don't know, as a man, help him understand what exactly is going on and what's going on with this lady or with ladies who have this sort of problems. What's going on in their system? What's going on in the body?
It's quite interesting because just yesterday I was discussing with someone else about, she was telling me about the hate she developed with the husband. So she got pregnant, but every time she would see the husband, she would develop this hate towards him, and then he would go to the sink and start vomiting. So sometimes it can go to the extreme that the woman would develop something that is physical that starts with the hormones and stuff, but it generates to emotional, and it can go towards even the relationships.
Yeah.
And it's quite true based on the question, but also on the viewer, that the mood swings has an effect on relationships at work, but also in the family.
In the families,
So I think this question is not out of the topic.
It's a reality.
It's
this
a
is
reality.
a reality that's happened.
It happens. It has happened since time immemorial.
And it shall continue to happen.
It shall continue. But sometimes it's good for us in the studio and your station to educate the public. And I think that's why we host this program, so that we can be able to address some of these issues.
And understand them.
And understand so that we can change even the way our people understand health issues. And especially to an extreme, very sure, from my priorities that we need to discuss more and more issues around women health. And I'm encouraged, because then with public education, we could be able even to improve relationships. We can be able to help our viewers understand women better. My passion is so we can help our society to understand women and understand them from the perspective of health and what goes wrong in their body. Because if you have a happy woman, you probably have a happy family,
and a happy community, and a happy society.
And a happy society.
Yeah, and I think it's also important for women who'd be watching this program to understand themselves, because I think a lot of women would also be thinking, yes, I go through that, but I don't know why.
Yes.
Yeah. So perhaps start by giving us what's going on in this
Yes.
woman's
Yeah.
system at that point, and maybe a few words of advice for this gentleman.
Yes.
On what to do.
And I think we've been sharing this in our previous programs. I will still expound on it and build on it. When a woman is going through the cycle, the monthly cycle, there are two hormones that are predominant in different stages. We have the estrogen and progesterone. But also even when they get pregnant, there is a predominant hormone that is too much in their circulation and in their body. And these hormones have an effect on their personality, their perspectives, their personality, their
behavior.
feelings, their behavior. And like you said, it's good to help to tell our viewers this so that they can understand themselves, especially women. And whenever the cycle is getting along, so you find women when estrogen is it's at a higher level than progesterone, they are likable, they are very attractive, they get along with people.
They're happy.
And it's the nature, the nature of human being and the way God has created us. And a cycle, a menstrual cycle, it's we call it menstrual cycle, but for us we understand it from the aspect of reproduction. If you look at it from the aspect of reproduction, such that when a woman is going towards being fertile, that they can get pregnant, they will be more attractive and more likable to deal with. And estrogen does that. It helps the woman to feel good about themselves, to have nice skin and smooth, and to have good moods, good moods, such that they can attract a man, they can attract their spouse, they are approachable, they are outgoing, they're thinking. Sort of that builds a woman towards reproduction.
Yeah.
And it peaks at the level where we say a woman is fertile, between when the egg is being released, the ova is being released, and then at that time a woman may get pregnant if there is may conceive if there is contact with a man. So during that period when estrogen is building up,
It's high.
going to the peak, the woman has very good moods.
Okay.
Yeah, but when the pregnancy
When the opposite
doesn't, when the
happens.
conception hasn't occurred, and then estrogen drops, and then you have progesterone going up again.
Yeah.
Because when the estrogen drops, then you
And the
have
progesterone goes
going up. So that is the time the woman moods start now fluctuating to the other side. If you have a graph, if you draw a graph, you have estrogen. If you're thinking of moods, you can think of a graph that goes up on the positive side. That is estrogen. But when it goes down now to a level of 0, and then you have progesterone again starting to build up and probably peaking, that would say in terms of mood swings, we could go now to the negative.
I see.
So the things that were good now start becoming.
This is the point at which a woman will be
Yeah,
irritable.
will be irritable, will not be approachable, including if it's your boss, you probably can't approach her during the time when you
raise at
have
that point.
progesterone building up. And then again it peaks. When you have progesterone picking up, it's at its peak, you are to the extreme, right? So you can't probably finish a conversation. If you irritate that woman, then you're in for trouble. If it's your boss, you probably could be fired at that time. Or
So
if it's your wife, you probably have quarrels at home. Yeah, sometimes it could be physical. Like I told you with this lady, the client I was talking to yesterday, because now it had gone to a level that the husband knocks at the door. Then she realizes this is my husband coming. She opens the door and then goes to the sink.
That's extreme.
So it goes
That's
to the
very,
extreme.
very extreme.
And if the man doesn't understand this, that he will think probably there's a bigger issue
Yeah.
that is not related now to the cycle.
To the cycle.
Yeah.
So basically we're talking about estrogen being
And
the
progesterone.
happy hormone.
Yeah, the happy
And
hormone.
progesterone is the
yes.
not so
Yes.
happy.
And again, it's an issue that is common when a woman is going towards menopause.
So
And you know, in when a woman goes in towards menopause, you have a lot of progesterone controlling that cycle of their life. And you know, when we say a woman is getting into menopause, the period, the monthly cycle, sort of like if she's been having her periods every month, she will start by skipping some, and then it goes to a level that she doesn't receive her monthly period. That is the time when progesterone is high. And women, as they go into menopause and in their life, you will have to deal with them differently. Like the way you deal with a girl who is very much fertile at the age of puberty and going on towards peaking in early when we say a woman is very fertile, then probably going to early 30s. Then when they have a lot of progesterone in their circulation, going to menopause, then you have the irritability, the flashes, we call them flashes.
Hot flashes.
Hot flashes,
Okay.
yes.
So this question, like, is what you're saying basically is progesterone levels in pregnancy and
Yes,
during
and
the cycle, or what
during
would
the
cause,
cycle. The infertile days, when
I
you have
see.
the infertile days. Yeah.
Okay, so what can one do? Or
Yes.
is this something that, as doctors, you say, just live with it? It will pass, it will come for a couple of days every month. If someone is expectant, the pregnancy will, will progress and it will pass. Is there anything that can be done for extreme cases?
Even for mild cases, it's good for us to advise the women, especially the women, first of all, to understand themselves. Because it starts from there. Women need to understand themselves and what is going on with their body. Then now we go now to the men, because the men are part of the issue here. Also, men need to understand women in that context. That is, this is not just a man. Because men, we are easy. We can get along with other men. We don't have those mood swings. And if we have them, they are not as...
They are not hormone...
They are not as...
related.
As severe, sometimes as bad as women. But also naturally, men are built and made differently from men. So I think from a psychological perspective, it's good to... this is not a medical problem.
Okay.
This is not a medical problem, and that's what I wanted you to understand. It's not a. It could have some issues. There could be some issues that can be corrected, like if it's in menopause. Beyond menopause, there's some treatment we give just to help balance the hormones. But during the normal cycle, this is not a problem. It's not a disease.
It's not something that would require treatment.
I think what we need to do is to make people aware that women are different than men, but also as men, we need to understand women, that this is the cycle. And if you have your 14 days of happiness, then you can do with 3 days of
a bit of intolerance. But I think the understanding is what builds 99% of the tolerance.
And if, again, in pregnancy, you know, it's only going to last for some months.
And then
then it will be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no medication is needed.
The good, like what I said, just know that you've had 14 days of happiness, then 3 or 5 days of irritability and mood swings.
You can live with it.
You can live with it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see what was next. Okay, this has to do with malaria. And this gentleman says, you know, all through school and all his life he's been told malaria is caused by mosquitoes.
Yes.
However, when he Once in a while, he usually sleeps under a net,
Mhm.
but once in a while either forgets to put it on or sleeps elsewhere and he doesn't have the net.
Yes.
He'll still get bitten by mosquitoes, but will not get malaria. But if he's rained on, I mean, it's standard. He knows. If
Yeah.
he gets rained on, he's going to get sick, and he
Yes.
goes to the doctor, and they
Yes.
always tell him, oh, it's malaria,
Mhm.
and he gets treated for that. So his question is malaria really about mosquitoes, or is it about rain?
Yeah.
So
This is a question we hear every day, especially in places. In fact, we didn't get a question from Ukambani. Maybe Ukambani, this is a viewer from Ukambani, would have said whenever they have mangoes, because they associate malaria with mangoes.
with mangoes.
So probably our viewer comes from a place that rains, and then or others have associated malaria with rain. But I think the simple way to answer that question is to just explain the basics. What is malaria, how it's transmitted, and briefly, what is the connection with rain?
With rain, yes.
Yeah, especially the connection with rain, because we have mosquito in itself doesn't cause malaria. The mosquito itself doesn't. If you live in Limuru, or places that are highlands, the
very
Kenyan
cold.
highlands, the very, very cold one, the very, very cold places, where probably mosquitoes can survive, could survive, but we have places that we used to say they are malaria-free zones. Even when you have mosquitoes, you don't have malaria. And there are places that you have rain, you have a lot of rain, and then you have mosquitoes. Then we call those areas, and probably it's humid and warm, like in Mombasa, Kisumu, part of Ukambani, Naivasha. These areas are humid, and they have a lot of water. They have some water, they have rain, they don't have a lot of wind. Then you have mosquitoes. So those are the areas that we say, if you go to these places, make sure that you take malaria drugs just to protect you. Because definitely if you go there, every mosquito is infested with malaria-causing parasites. We call them protozoa. So this viewer who says whenever they get rained on, they feel sick.
Yeah. Go to hospital.
They go to the hospital.
It's
and
usually
then
malaria.
And the key thing to know here is that if you get bitten by a mosquito that has malaria-causing parasites, you're going to get malaria. If you get bitten by a mosquito that is carrying malaria-causing parasites. So, and probably this viewer got bitten by a mosquito that was carrying malaria, causing the parasite that causes malaria.
But when he sleeps and doesn't sleep under a net, he still gets bitten.
You will get bitten if you're not under a net.
Yeah.
And again, you also be bitten if you sleep under a net that is not treated. So we advise viewers to sleep under mosquito-treated nets. But if you live in an area that has a lot of mosquitoes, and this is a malaria zone area, make sure that you are on drugs, or because we have areas that people get exposed to malaria all the time, all the year round. Like if you go to Kisumu and you take samples from all the people who live there, you're sure that you're going to get like 90% of those samples having malaria parasites, but they kind of live with the malaria-causing parasites in their circulation. It doesn't cause harm. If you move from Nairobi or a place that is not malaria-infected, you've never been exposed to malaria parasites, and you move to this area, you're definitely going to be sick more than the people who live there. And both of you are. If you're tested, you'll test positive for malaria.
But one will be sick.
And again, probably the viewer was thinking in the line of, whenever there is rain, there's water that gathers around somewhere.
Okay.
Like in the compound or someplace. And malaria parasites, they live under the water that is stagnant.
Puddles.
the mosquito will breed within the stagnant water. And if you're living in the area that is malaria infested, definitely most of those mosquitoes will transmit malaria.
Transmit.
Yes.
So there's something else you mentioned about, although this viewer didn't mention it, but you mentioned something about in Ukambani, there's a very strong association of malaria to mangoes.
Yes.
What
happens is that if you look at the calendar from January to December, and when mangoes are getting to mature, the season, that is almost the same season that there is rain, and it's warm and humid.
And that is when malaria will
That's
strike.
when mosquitoes will range in Ukambani, because there is water around. Generally, Ukambani is dry. So when it's very dry and mosquitoes don't have anywhere to breed, you're sure you're not going to get a lot of malaria cases. But when it's raining and there's warm water, there's water sitting around, and it's warm. And when it's warm and it has already rained and it's warm and there's water, around that time, that's when you have mangoes.
So it's a coincidence.
It's sort of like those things that you associate, but there's no relationship between mangoes, direct relationship between mangoes and malaria.
In this particular part
and so is
of the
even
country.
rain.
Yes.
And so is rain.
About,
Rain
so
doesn't
it's
cause
about the
malaria.
puddles,
It's only the association. Rain doesn't cause malaria. Mangoes, they don't cause malaria. It's only that whenever there is rain, water sits around.
Puddles,
and when water sits around, mosquitoes are going to breed in stagnant water. And when mosquitoes breed in stagnant water, and it's a malaria zone, you're going to have a lot of malaria cases
at that particular time.
Yeah, but if it's not a malaria zone, even when you have water sitting around, you're not going. And there are a lot of mosquitoes. If those mosquitoes are not infested, they are not carrying malaria-causing parasites, then people are not going to get malaria.
Okay.
But that's what we say. You make sure that you avoid the bites, because you don't know which mosquito is infested, and which is not. You can't tell by looking at them.
Yeah. So just be safe by being under the treated net
but
all the time.
Yes, especially when I was in school, in certain areas you couldn't get malaria. Even when we went there for internship. I remember working in Lari, place called Uplands. That place. Cold. Even when you see a clinician saying this patient has malaria, and you do a test, usually it's not confirmation. We have to take a patient and get a slide, because not all there you are going to see like 1 or 2 cases. And these are people who've traveled. These are patients who have traveled in other areas and have come back. Yeah.
All right. Let's take the final one. This one was very vague for me. I don't know if it's going to be vague for you. This is a young man, a student. I don't know if these details will help, that he's a student, a young man. And he says he feels like the feeling of...
Chomwa.
Yes. Pricking or burning. The word he uses in Swahili, nasikia kuchomwa kwa tumbo. So his stomach feels like either burning of this prickly feeling, and it lasts a few days. Then when it comes back a week later, still lasts a few days. But when it now comes back like the second or third time, it's the same feeling but now in the head. I must say this was very vague. I don't know whether you can shed some light on that little information that we have.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of cases, and this is very classical, of patients that we see quite often, especially with diseases that are associated with food and feces and fingers. we call them the 4Fs, where you have you made contact with organism that cause diseases, then the cycle is not broken. Like you wash your hands, and then when you go to the toilet. So and I've done several studies and samples. You collect a lot of samples of normal guys who are out there who are having some minor problems with their stomach. It could be like the kuchomwa, the burning sensation, some discomfort, a little bout of diarrhea 1 or 2 days, some hard stool, and the classical disease that presents like kuchomwa and discomfort and headache and some feeding problems. They may have some poor appetite, like 1 or 2 days, and then it clears. Usually it's a condition we call amoebiasis. It's an infestation of
amoeba.
Amoeba.
What we call amoeba.
Amoeba, what people call amoeba. And and I like it because it's not a huge problem, a big problem for him. He has some headache and kuchoma in the stomach, and he's not comfortable.
Not persistent.
And it's not persistent, and this is a student. And you said a good thing is a student, because if you do sample 100 samples, stool samples from students, school-going children, you will find almost 70% of them will have amoeba. A big percentage will have amoebiasis. Some will have a condition we call giardia. These are minor abdominal infections that are caused through the fingers, the feces, and the food. And school health programs used to correct most of those problems, and that's why you remember when we were deworming our children in school.
Yes.
So now we can go further and give drugs for amoeba. Like in this program I run, we have a program where every child with abdominal problems, if you do a sample, you find amoebiasis, you just treat. And then you treat every other 6 months, 3 to 6 months, because definitely they're exposed to water that is not treated.
So this is out of basically eating with your hands.
And with your dirty hands.
Washed,
yeah, with the dirty hands. We call, in fact, I tell, and this we can tell viewers, it's eating your feces. It's basically that. If you eat without washing your hands, and you've been out there, and maybe you went to a long call, or you greeted someone who went for a long call, and they had never washed their hands. Definitely, most probably they have those germs, let me call germs for the sake of viewers, on your hands, and you're going to transmit. And the reason that's why we say wash your hands is because we want to break the cycle. Yes. Yeah, clean it up with water so that it doesn't go back to your stomach.
Okay. And actually, there have been very, very, very impactful campaigns around the country. The last year or so, around hand washing.
Around hand washing. Yeah. It makes sense, because for like the program I told you we ran for schools, is that we make sure that every child gets dewormed, and they have their stool done, stool specimen done, like at least once a year. And whenever we find amoebiasis, we treat. But we also encourage the students, the pupils, to go and make sure that they wash their hands, because it's not just